Courtrooms are places of justice and decorum, where truth is meant to prevail over chaos. Yet sometimes what unfolds inside can be stranger, more dramatic, and more shocking than anyone could imagine. From unexpected confessions to explosive outbursts, here are some of the craziest courtroom moments ever captured. Number 1. Alan McCarty, the unhinged threatener. Our first case brings us to Florida. Alan McCarty lost custody of his children and responded by threatening the judge who ruled against him. His unhinged antics continued in court, shouting insults and obscenities.
He is making this up. I was never sworn in. I have not been sworn in at all. You're a liar.
Even after being found guilty of threatening a judge, McCarty's sentencing hearing was pure chaos, so much so that he had to be removed and placed behind one-way glass. He continued his tirade to the bitter end and ultimately received a 20-year prison sentence, plus an additional 10 days for his behavior in court. Number 2. Franklin Williams' silence at all costs. In Cleveland, Ohio, Franklin Williams, convicted of multiple armed robberies, wouldn't stop talking during sentencing. After numerous warnings, the judge ordered Williams's mouth be duct-taped shut in a move that stunned onlookers.
Zip it.
Though controversial, this measure finally allowed the judge to deliver a 24-year sentence. Later, Williams was resentenced by another judge, receiving 33 years behind bars. Freedom of speech, it turns out, does not include endless interruptions in a courtroom. Number 3. Martez Abram, a Walmart nightmare. In South Haven, Mississippi, Martez Abram returned to his former workplace, a Walmart, with a vengeance. Suspended for carrying a knife, he came back armed with multiple weapons and gunned down 2 store managers. Captured on site, Abram admitted to the killings in chilling detail. The judge sentenced him to death, and he now awaits execution.
In count 1, I will sentence you to death. Count 2, you will be sentenced to death. In count 3, you will be sentenced to life in the penitentiary.
Number 4. Child abuse killers, a judge's fury. 2 women in South Carolina, Erica Butts and Shanita Cunningham, were found guilty of child abuse homicide. The 3-year-old they were supposed to be caring for endured weeks of torture. A stunned courtroom listened as the judge sentenced both to life in prison.
The severity of the blow to that child's leg, and to say that you did not recognize what had been done, to ignore what must have been the excruciating sounds that came from that child on a daily basis, is more than disconcerting to this court.
Overcome by the gravity of their deeds, the women collapsed in grief. Yet no tears could wash away their horrific crime, nor the punishment that followed. Number 5. Keith Ferguson, no remorse for a broken family. Keith Ferguson of Michigan murdered his wife and father-in-law, terrorized his own children, and held a stranger hostage before finally surrendering. Unrepentant and disturbingly calm, he received a life sentence. The judge noted there was something fundamentally wrong with Ferguson, proof that not all insanity is clinical. Number 6. Randall Moore, a husband's unthinkable revenge. After his estranged wife left him and filed a protective order, Randall Moore kidnapped, abused, and ultimately killed her. He also shot a responding police officer. In court, he refused to apologize and claimed no remorse.
And I'll tell you point blank, I have not 1 ounce of remorse for Treesan's death. It could have all been prevented. All you had to do is let me see my kid. Now you're never going to see her again.
The judge, disgusted by his attitude, delivered 3 life sentences plus an additional 25 years. Moore's lack of regret only sealed his fate. Number 7. Wrongfully convicted David Ranta's long road to freedom. Not all shocking moments are about unrepentant killers. In Brooklyn, David Ranta lost 22 years of his life to a wrongful conviction. Finally, after proof emerged that the key witnesses were pressured to lie,
Mr. Brandon, to say that I'm sorry for what you have endured would be an understatement and grossly inadequate, but I say it to you anyway. The defendant's motion to vacate the judgment of conviction is granted.
Ranta's conviction was vacated. Cameras captured his emotional release as he hugged family and stepped outside, a free man. Later, he received millions in settlements of bittersweet compensation for a stolen life. Number 8. Diana Lovejoy, a fainted response to guilty. Diana Lovejoy, enraged by custody and financial rulings after her divorce, plotted to murder her ex-husband. She conspired with her boyfriend, who pulled the trigger. Although the victim survived, the jury found Diana guilty of attempted murder. Hearing the verdict, she fainted on the spot.
It's so painful that some people in this world seem to think that I would have it in me to do this.
The dramatic collapse changed nothing. She was sentenced to 26 years to life. Number 9, a judge's harshest words, Camilla Gamet. In Mississippi, Camilla Gamet stabbed her boyfriend to death and claimed self-defense. The jury didn't buy it. With no remorse shown, the judge tore into her, declaring he hoped she died in prison.
The way I was portrayed, mostly everything was lies. There was a little bit of truth, but mostly I was convicted off of lies.
He stated that, if the state allowed the death penalty in such cases, he'd gladly impose it. Instead, Gamet received life without parole. Number 10, the woman who thought she'd avoid prison, Keandria Cook. In Florida, 18-year-old Keandria Cook played a role in a violent carjacking, leaving the victim seriously injured. She and her mother believed she'd avoid prison time. When the judge handed down 20 years, the mother wailed in shock.
Is she guilty of all 3 charges, sentenced you to 20 years in state prison?
Cook's sentence was later reduced to 11 years. But the lesson was clear: deadly crimes have deadly serious consequences. Number 11, the wheelchair escapee Joel Delgado. In a moment that could be straight from a dark comedy, Joel Delgado feigned injury, arriving in a neck brace and wheelchair. Escorting him into an Arkansas courthouse, a deputy paused to fix a lost shoe, only for Delgado to leap up and sprint away at full speed. Despite his disability, Delgado outran the officer. He was caught hours later, neck brace and all, facing an additional escape charge. So much for an alibi. Number 12, Ronnie O'Neal, a family's worst nightmare. Ronnie O'Neal's crimes were beyond comprehension. He murdered his girlfriend, their daughter, and severely injured their young son before setting their home on fire. Incredibly, he represented himself in court, even cross-examining his own surviving son.
Did I hurt you that night of this incident?
Yes.
I did. And how did I hurt you?
You stabbed me.
Showing no remorse and claiming he wasn't sorry, the judge called it the worst case she'd ever seen.
This is the worst case ever in my life, and I have seen some horrors.
O'Neal received 3 life sentences plus 90 years. These are just some of the wildest moments where the solemn halls of justice became stages for cruelty, desperation, defiance, and sometimes redemption. In the end, these courtroom dramas remind us that even within the structured world of law, human behavior can be dangerously unpredictable, and justice, though sometimes delayed, must always strive to prevail. What do you think? Comment below. I want to know your opinion about this matter. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more of these kinds of videos. Thanks for watching.